Howdy. Howdy. Before we get into Yankee Hotel Foxtrot 20th Anniversary Edition, I've been doing Instagram shout-outs because I think Instagram is fantastic source for music and vinyl community stuff. And there is an account, Motorique 24/7. I will put it, because I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I'm assuming it refers to the krautrock. I will put his handle or his account in the description. It's an absolutely phenomenal Instagram. I learned so much from him on experimental music, on kind of European psych and world music. He has a related channel that you'll see in his bio, and I'm always late. I never win. I'm never on enough, and it'll explain itself when you get on there, but it is a great, great Instagram account. Check it out. And we're going to get into Wilco. In some ways, well, I'll just edit, because in some ways, you know, when a record comes out on its anniversary, 10 or 20, you're like, oh my God, that went so fast. With this feels like it came out 40 years ago. It feels old. It feels older than 20 years. It really does. So let's try to explain this album and how I feel. In some ways, I'm not sure how to talk about Yankee. That might be a sign not to. There are plenty of other middle-aged white guys talking about this record and their emotional connection, and they'll do a far better job than I will. There'll be plenty of people that tell you this record isn't important, that it's not very good. They can kick rocks. I have this storage unit. It's 18 years old. When I first got it, it was, I think, $23.99 a month, and now it's $72 a month. And I haven't opened it in 18 years. I have a separate storage unit that's a little more functional that I bring music in and out of and gear in and out of. It's Class A amp season. Try it. It's cooling down. It's, you know, space is a premium, so I use that one. Where I live, it's a premium. But the other one, I haven't opened in 18 years, and there's a lot of music in there. Probably this. Actually, yeah. A lot of 7 inches, 12 inches. Documents of show after show after show I went to. Posters. Probably No Depression magazine. From my late teens through my 20s, maybe a little bit early 30s. I can't open it. And I knew that when I closed it and locked it, I was consciously aware of the repression that I was doing. There are images and memories that I'm running away from inside that storage unit, now basically a time capsule. But I've commingled them with nostalgia and good memories that are sweet. But it's been so long, they're blurred now together. And the nostalgia is every bit as painful to think about as the things I'm running from. But they say repression doesn't work. Well, it works to some degree. I go back with Wilco in the sense that some friends and I like Uncle Tupelo. We liked a lot of the alt country scene, even some of that cactus pop. That asshole Ryan Adams. And you didn't get as much information, not just about anything, necessarily your band, when this came out, in the sense that you got blurbs about their struggle with the record company and some of the tension with Jay, between Jay and Jeff Tweedy. And I remember one road, I think I saw Wilco at a place called the Pink Pony. I don't know if it was AM or another album. I saw being there a few times, that tour. And Betty Servette opened. I believe that's how you say her name. She was on Matador, I think, had a single called Tomboy. She was from the Netherlands. Great song. And then Hum was next. And Hum was like Dinosaur Jr. loud. By the time Wilco came on, Wilco felt like they were playing at a whisper. You had to get used to how quiet they were playing. It was just that Hum was so long or loud. But many of my friends jumped off on Wilco. They thought they had gone a little too experimental when it came to this. There was some signs of that progression. But looking back, it's easier to know now that Chicago for the last 25 years has been the best music scene in America. The most important. Media has grabbed onto obvious areas on the coast and other places. But Chicago, the scene doesn't draw a lot of attention to itself. And whether it be electronic, experimental, jazz, or free jazz, particularly experimental pop, O'Rourke, who mixed this, contributed. It's always been an incredible scene. So you could see, obviously, with his collaborations, Jeff Tweedy's collaborations, and rolling up to this, that his city and the scene had a profound effect on him, what he was listening to, and produced a remarkable album. And then they streamed it. And then some months later, the documentary came out. I think Sam Jones did it. I'm not a knowledgeable person on film or movies. It's painful to watch. It's not particularly entertaining. The dynamics of what was going on in that video when I watched it reminded me of the time of the dynamics going on in my life, and probably a larger problem that was going on in the lives of Jay and Jeff Tweedy at the time. I was losing people, literally losing people in my life. And this album became an elixir. But some years later, it quickly became a poison. It was a time, not just a difficult and strange time for the United States, where we quickly go for some sort of unity to defining what a patriot is, and worse than Hitler. Extremes. But my life was crumbling around me. People were crumbling around me. And later on, you figure out that it is the same mess and the same hell that members of that band were going through. And I had to, much as Tweedy had to use the leverage to control his band, those dynamics basically, I haven't watched the documentary on Jay, but you get the impression that it's Tweedy's band and he was going to win. But I had to remove myself because professionally I was taking risks. I was betting on myself to go to a better place. And I saw people struggle with adulthood and transitioning to a place where they were being depended on. And then war came. So that storage unit that I turned into a capsule, this album is essentially was put in there. I stopped listening to it because it reminded me of times and memories that I didn't want to. Even though there was nostalgia and sweetness in there, they've been blurred too much. And that's what this album is. The melancholy, the famous melancholy of Tweedy, he's such a likable, funny, self-deprecating person. I think his melancholy is interesting. I think why it's so enjoyable and effective is that, this is just my opinion, that it always feels like he's one phrase away from really telling you how he feels. And that reach and that desperation to communicate how he feels, the act of it coming slightly short is the power of his music. But this album also has nostalgia. It has sweetness. It has memories that he loves. But with the melancholy and the existentialism, they get blurred. And you're not sure if it is joy or not. You're not sure if that nostalgia is something to make you smile or run away from. And that's what this is to me. When they brought in Glenn Koch, the new drummer, he made them a better band. He is a brilliant musician. He's one of the best drummers in the world. And getting that mix was special. Much like Pavement, Crooked Rain, the magic in that record is the mix. That O'Rourke and his contributions are so important. And Wilco bet on itself. Essentially, Tweedy bet on himself during a really hard time to do that. And he won, and others lost with no judgment. And at this point, Wilco is an example of artistic and financial control, a model to look up to. You can even buy their gear, get relics on Reverb from them. So the joy of actually putting this back on, though, and the trepidation of listening to it again after so long, was the fact that it sounds amazing. It sounds fantastic. And even if it's your first copy of Wilco, there's no need to do an A and B on this, in the sense that you'll be extremely happy with this mastering if you're an audiophile buff. But if you're just a Wilco fan and you've never had it on vinyl, it's going to meet any expectations you have. It sounds incredible, and it's an incredible, strange record during a strange time for a lot of people. Highly recommend it. Have a good week or weekend.